Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to show you a quick walkthrough of our interactive budgeting tools, Balancing Act and Taxpayer Receipt. These are the tools that we use to collect citizen feedback for our next fiscal year budget. So I'm going to show you how to get there from stillwater.org. You'll start out, you'll come to the top navigation pane, click on Government and click on Financial Center. From here, you can click on Balancing Act over here in the left navigation pane, or you can come over here to the main page and click on this hyperlink that says an interactive budget simulation tool under Balancing Act. If you come to the page before, it's going to ask you if you want to continue where you left off or start over. I'm going to choose Start Over. So when you first enter the page, it should look like this. A little help guide is going to pop up with basic information about the tool. It's going to highlight our balancing bar here at the top, our revenues as how money's brought in, our spending as how money is spent, and then a help button here at the top if you need help. From here, you can click on this help and tips if you want to get more detailed help information, or you can click on Get Started. So once you get started, you can see that the page is divided into two main sections, which are revenue and spending. So these figures are based on our adopted budget for fiscal year 2020, which runs from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. And this is where you get the opportunity to jump in and give your input on what you would change in the budget. Our city council and city staff do listen to your input and take that into account as we move through the budget development cycle. So first, let's take a look at the revenue side. You'll notice here that our revenue is broken down by income source, starting from our highest source of income, which is sales tax, to our lowest source of income, which is licenses and permits. So here's a fun fact for you. Oklahoma is actually the only state in which municipalities can only collect sales tax revenue for general municipal operations. So most municipalities in other states can collect revenues by two or more sources of taxes, like property and income tax, in addition to sales tax. So all that means to us is that we have to be really conservative in our budgets because sales tax can be much more volatile or unstable than other types of taxes. So speaking of sales tax, let's take a look at our sales tax here on the screen by clicking on this little right-hand drop-down. And you're going to see here that sales tax is broken down into three areas, which are general sales tax, that's 2% of the total, transportation sales tax, which is 0.5% of the total, and Stillwater Utilities Authority sales tax, which is 1% of the total. So from the general sales tax, you can see these little plus or minus buttons here, and that's where you can increase or decrease the total. But I want you to remember that any change in percentage of sales tax would have to go to a vote of the people and get 51% approval. Down here under transportation sales tax, this gives you a little bit more information about the transportation sales tax. There's some history here, or sometimes we call it the half-cent transportation tax. Again, it's going to let you know that if you want to make a change, that would require a 51% approval from our registered voters. So depending on what you think that vote may be, you can elect to maintain the tax, increase it to 1 cent, increase it to 2 cents, or remove that tax altogether. So right now, this is roughly $4.1 million, which is restricted to only spend on transportation. We know that that's one of our greatest priorities that we hear from citizens in our community. Last, we have the SUA sales tax portion, and this is locked here in the tool. This is because that 1% of that total sales tax collected is designated for the SUA, and by policy is used to pay for purchase power expenses. I want to highlight that on all of these areas, there is a share button if you want to share this to social media, and there's also a comment button if you want to leave comments on specific areas. There's also this little blue information button. If you want to get information on any of the topics, most of them have them. Some of them will give you links and articles and images. Others will just simply let you know more about the category. So you can move through the revenue side, make changes. If there's anything pertinent to making a change, for example, on this licenses and permits, a little pop-up's going to come up and tell you that if you want to make a change here, that it would have to go to the city council for approval. You can make your decision there. After you're finished going through the revenue side, I want you to come up to the top here and check on your balancing bar. This is where you're going to see if your budget is balanced, if you're running a deficit or a surplus. Next, come over here to spending. Our spending is broken down into functional area of the city. The mechanics here are the same as the revenue side. You can click on these right drop downs and see more information about the category and what makes it up, and make your adjustments accordingly. So each of these areas is going to include things like personnel expenses, like payroll, retirement and health insurance, materials and supplies, and services and fees. Again, if you'd like more information, you can click on this blue information button and learn more about each area. I want to highlight again that you can leave your comments, and you can do that whether or not you decide to change the budget. So if you think an area of the city is doing a fabulous job with their current budget, this is a great place to leave that shout out. We'd love to hear your comments on what you think we're doing a great job of or what we can improve. So take some time, make some changes here, and you'll notice here at the top that as you make those changes, that bar is going to change. So our goal here, what we want to see is that you're either balanced or you have a surplus. Balanced means that your revenues equal your spending. A surplus means that your revenue exceeds your spending. And what you don't want to see here is a deficit, where your spending exceeds your revenue. It actually won't let you submit down here at the bottom if you do have a deficit in the budget. So once you're through making all of your changes and comments, come down here and submit. It's going to give you 3 optional questions to answer. It's going to ask you about your connection to Stillwater, your age range, and how many years you've lived in Stillwater. Click on this little I'm not a robot button and hit submit. So I want to point out that all of the information that you submit here is completely anonymous. We don't see any specific details on each individual submission. We get an aggregated view of all the responses that have been submitted. In fact, I want to give you a little peek at what we see on the back end once you've made your submissions. So here is the page of information and data analytics that we get to see. As you can see, it comes to us aggregated by area, question answers, and revenue or expense category changes. We can kind of see generally who is submitting, where they're submitting from, their answers to the additional questions, and then further down in the page, what areas people are changing. So we see the averages, median, and mode of the clicks, of the decreases and increases. And then here are the top areas that people want to change. We can get a little more detailed information if we click on each of these areas. But this is the information that is presented to City Council to help them as they make any changes to the budget and eventually approve that budget. So we're going to go back to the Balancing Act tool and scroll down so I can show you that there's a lot of additional information here at the bottom. If this is a great resource, if you're curious about anything budget related, there's a lot of links that go back to the city's website. This is the page that we started on. You can get more information about the annual budget. There's a fun video there. You can get more information about the budget cycle. And if you really want to get detailed, you can click on this FY20 adopted budget. And this is going to be our adopted budget book. It's about 112 pages. If you really want to know the detailed information about the budget, I really encourage you to take a look at this. This is a great resource for you. So next we're going to go back to the Balancing Act tool, and we're going to take a look at the taxpayer receipt, which is our companion piece. It's really simple. It takes probably 1 minute. You can click on that right here. So this tool is going to give you an estimate of the sales tax that you pay toward that roughly $30 million overall amount that the city collects. So here you're going to answer 3 questions and submit. Put in your annual income, your age, and roughly the percentage of goods and products that you buy locally, and then hit view your tax receipt. Again, this is going to pull in all of that information from our Balancing Act, and it's going to break it down for you. How much money do you contribute to each of those areas? And then your total here at the bottom. So I just think that's a really fun and informative way for you to see what you're contributing. And the purpose of all of this is to show the important relationship between a city and its citizens. We know that the tax dollars which make up a majority of our city revenue comes from you, and we want to know what you think on how it should be spent. So that's all I have for you. Thanks everyone for joining us. Hope you found this demonstration useful. If you have any questions on the tool, you can feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can contact the city directly at news@stillwater.org, or give us a call at 405-612-6934.